The New York Times just had 4 different reviewers put out their list of their favorite books for the year.
Sure. And for the record, this is not favorite books of the year.
We think these are good games.
Yeah. So there's things we're going to overlook. Like, my favorite thing is Monsters. I don't think we need to tell you that my favorite thing of Monsters is a thing that people could buy. Unless...
That is literally what I'm building up to.
Sorry.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Okay, since we have a Patreon account, and we have generous patrons which, well, patronize us, I guess.
Yeah.
Financially. Let's talk about what's happening with the new fee changes to Patreon.
Yes. I'm going to see if I can bring it up, because Patreon just sent out an email to everyone who is a patron, not a creator. Creators got different emails.
I got the creator email yesterday.
Yeah, which is what kicked off this whole firestorm, as a lot of creators have a lot of problems with it, and have already given Patreon a lot of feedback, which is mostly, oh my god, please don't do this. But today... On Thursday, Patreon sent out a letter to patrons, which I'm going to read.
I haven't gotten mine yet, and I'm a patron.
Dear patron.
That's us.
Well, we're also creators, but I guess in this instance, we're both patrons. Your support is truly changing the lives of creators around the world. You give creators a reliable paycheck that enables them to do their best work. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In order to continue our mission of funding the creative class, we're always looking for ways to do what's best for our creators. With that, we're writing to tell you of a change that we're making so that all Patreon creators can take home exactly 95% of every pledge with no additional fees. Aside from Patreon's existing 5% fee, a creator's income on Patreon varies because of processing fees every month. They can lose anywhere from 7 to 15% of their earnings to those fees. This means creators actually take home a lower percentage of your pledge than you may realize. Our goal is to make creators' paychecks as predictable as possible, so we're restructuring how those fees are paid. Starting December 18th, we will apply a new service fee of 2.9% plus 35 cents that patrons will pay for each individual pledge. This service fee helps keep Patreon up and running. We want you to know that we approach every change with thoughtfulness for creators and patrons. By standardizing Patreon's fees, we're ensuring that creators get paid to continue creating high-quality content. If you have questions or would like to learn more, please visit our frequently asked questions here. So,
yes,
here's the problem. It's not so much that they're shifting where the fees are getting paid from. It used to be creators, now it's patron. It's how they're calculating those fees. The big thing in there that's making everybody furious, both patrons and creators, is that they're assessing a 2.9% plus 35 cent fee per pledge, which is ridiculous because anyone who's funded something on Patreon knows that you're not charged for your individual pledges. You're charged a lump sum for Patreon once a month. So the idea of needing to pay individual service fees of a flat rate per pledge for processing is a lie. That's just a flat-out lie. Because they're not like when Patreon has to charge you for these things, even internally, they're not running your card 100 times for your $101 pledges for a month. They're running one charge for $100. And then they divvy that up. In fact, the divvying up part is basically what they're getting paid for.
Yes.
That's the 5% that they're taking out from creators, which they're still taking out. That's still getting done. The processing fees, it's not that much. So anything over what they're actually paying for processing fees, they're just keeping.
And what's with this, the number that can go up to 15%?
7 to 15%. I assume some of that is based on the individual processing fees they're paying for different banks that the cards are coming from. Like, they might have to pay different amounts if you're using a Chase card versus an Amex card versus a specific card. You and I both know.
Yes,
that
but
can happen.
It's never...
15% seems like an awful lot.
7% seems like a ton.
Especially for a company that big that probably is processing, I would assume, millions of dollars of fees each month. Like, that they're collecting from individual patrons. So the idea that they can't negotiate a better rate than that, it just feels super greedy. So here's the thing that's kind of destroying Patreon almost overnight. What a lot of people do, according to creators, is they fund at a $1 to $5 level.
Yeah.
It's very common for people.
That's most of my numerous pledges.
Yeah.
They are $1 to $2.
Yeah, patrons aren't pledging at the $10, $20 level to get a bunch of extra stuff. What they're doing is they're deciding in a month how much money they can fund creators on Patreon. So they create a little pool of money, $50, $100, $200, and then they divvy that out as evenly as possible as they can. And what that means for a lot of people is that if they're spending $100 a month on Patreon, that's $101 pledges across a lot of different creators. So what that means now is if you're that person who has $101 pledges over the month, you used to spend $100. Now you're spending $137 a month on those pledges. So again, if you're like $201 pledges, congratulations, you're spending almost $300 a month now on those pledges. What that means is for a lot of people who are pledging at $1, they're canceling their pledges.
Yeah, there's nothing lower.
Yeah, one of the things that's super great in this, and this is maybe my favorite thing that Patreon's tone-deaf adoption of this policy has done, is they have a section in their FAQ. They have two sections, one for information on service fee changes for creators and one for patrons. And a lot of this is like, here's why it's great for you. Oh my god, you know exactly what you're getting every month. And oh my god, like, you can plan it out. And like, that these were things that no creator asked for.
No.
In fact, every creator who had this presented to them went to Patreon and basically said, A, can you not do this? B, what if I just pay them? So on the FAQ, what if I want to take the hit for my patrons? Can I pay those fees? We understand that some creators might wish to take the hit for their patrons. That said, the service fee will be extended to all patrons on the site, and there isn't an option to remove the service fees from your patron pledges. The best step is to make sure your patrons are fully educated on the benefits of this change for creators, and we've made sure to send them notification of this. So basically, when you're saying, look, this is going to hurt me, and I know it's going to, I'll pay it. I'll just pay the change. Not only can you not do that, the best thing for you is to tell people how great this is. I'm telling you as a creator that it's not great for me, and it's going to hurt me. And you're saying, you'll be fine. Even though, like, a bunch of creators so far, since this change has rolled out publicly, beyond just a message to creators saying this is going to happen, now that everyone's started to get their emails, creators are taking screenshots of all of the drops pledges. And it's people at $1 and $5 levels saying, I can't afford to do this every month anymore. Like, and Patreon's changes have made this impossible for me to keep doing it.
And when did you get this email?
Like 30, 40 minutes ago.
And this is all happening in that time period?
I mean, it's been happening since last night when creators were saying it, but it's escalated now. People who maybe weren't on Twitter, weren't on Facebook, weren't on Tumblr, weren't aware of this. Now they got this thing, and you can do the math.
Oh, sure.
And it's so frustrating because specifically the only reason that Patreon would not allow you as a creator to eat the fees is because what they're saying is, this is a money grab. If you ate the fees, if you just as a creator said, I'll just keep doing it the way I was before, I don't need the extra money that you're saying I'm going to get. No, it's because Patreon is making more money on this than you would be.
Right.
The shift is way more in their direction. Why would they let you turn that off? The whole point of this is for them to make more money. You can't turn it off.
And here's a different question, and I'm not saying it as, but what about us? I'm saying it as, this is the thing that happens. All of the patrons that I support, that money comes directly from our patrons. So the money that we collect as Contest of Challengers gets put into our account.
Right.
At the start of the month, all the patrons that I'm supporting, Patreon takes that money not from my card, it takes it from our account.
Okay.
Will they still charge card fees on that?
I don't know. I didn't look into that. You'll get an email from Patreon as a patron, and then you can go in and you can check and see. Or it might be under the creator email that you got the day before. I don't know.
You know, it's funny. I was going to slowly be ramping up our pitching for Patreon pledges, specifically reaching out to people that listen to this that aren't Challengers customers. If you're a Challengers regular, you support us that way.
You're already helping make this podcast possible.
For the hundreds of people that listen to this that don't shop at the store, I feel like supporting us for $1 a month, which is a quarter an episode, isn't that big of a deal.
It's not that much of an ask.
They do have an episode per episode fee structure, but
that's even worse for this because they assess the monthly fee as every episode.
Yeah, but also not in regards to that, but just into the regular pledging, it's still a minimum of $1. So
Yeah.
if we can't do both, we can't do you want to pay monthly or by episode, it's one or the other.
Yeah, some creators, what they've decided to do, since, again, they don't have the option of eating the fees, is they've just adjusted their pledge levels to accommodate that.
Sure.
So a $5 level is now $4.50. So you're still paying $5. It's just they're making less money, or the fees are evaporating a little bit more. The problem is, again, you can't go lower than $1.
Yeah.
So $1 is just $1.37. That's what that pledge level is now. What most creators are doing, beyond publicly campaigning to get to get Patreon not to do this, which, while the changes go into effect on the 15th, most people won't see it until January 1st.
Right.
So in theory, there is still time to get this to not happen. If enough people say no, and if enough creators and patrons show how this is not helping, it's possible that Patreon could blink and say, okay, we see this is a bad idea. It's not only is it a PR disaster, but it is adversely affecting everyone involved in this, except for Patreon. So the viability of Patreon as a platform going forward is in doubt if we go through with this, so we won't. The other thing that creators are doing are basically offering two different options. One, you can just donate directly on PayPal. Like, if you don't want to deal with all the fees monthly that go into this, you could just make a lump sum thing to that creator. And that way you're still donating, you're still helping that creator, but neither of you is having to deal with the nightmare of Patreon fees.
But is that on the patron to remember to do it each month?
It wouldn't be a monthly thing. It would just be like here's a chunk of money.
Okay.
Here you go. Instead of giving you $1 a month for 12 months, I don't know, here's $15, and maybe I don't do it for a year. The other thing is, maybe not conveniently for Patreon in this respect, Kickstarter is launching their own Patreon competitor called Drip. And it's currently in an invite-only closed beta, but that could change anytime.
Spike from Iron Circus Publishing in Chicago is...
She did an interview with, I want to say The Beat or
Part of
somebody
Drip.
on it. She was one of the first people to get invited to it, and she's been very open about how responsive Kickstarter has been to her feedback, what features she'd like to see them have, how she'd like to see the platform evolve, and she's been a booster of it. Because she's been someone who's done incredibly well with Kickstarter as far as
I am
building
surprised
her
there hasn't
empire.
been another one like this. I mean...
I think there will be now. Patreon had gotten into a shit ton of trouble about a month ago by tweaking their terms of service in regards to adult and pornographic material and how they were going to be enforcing that. And all of that plus this is kind of the signifier of Patreon's looking towards an IPO.
Yeah. Well, if you look at all the arguments with net neutrality right now and how pornography will be the most affected, yet pornography is responsible for most of our technological and e-commerce advances.
You think we'd have VR if porn weren't a thing?
Also, the majority of... I don't know majority, that's a strong word. There are a ton of adults-only levels on Patreon.
Sure.
And that's where a lot of creators make most of their money.
Yeah, and it's a really unfortunate thing because that's been a kind of saving grace of a lot of folks. That one of the big problems and this is, I don't know if this is even tangentially related to comics anymore, but one of the problems with folks working in the adult industry is that most credit card processors won't touch them. So if you want to fund a site, if you want to start a service, they won't let you use credit cards. And that's how everyone does everything on the internet. They're not going to send you like a personal check or a money order. If you can't take a credit card to pay for a service, you can't run a business. So what Patreon was letting a lot of folks do is, under the umbrella of their processing, do a lot of the things that folks would normally try and start a website to do. And Patreon was fine with that until all of a sudden Patreon was not fine with that.
Well, if you look at all the peer-to-peer payment plans, like PayPal,
Apple Cash,
Apple Cash, most people we know use Venmo.
Square.
There's one called the Cash App. And it's almost annoying now when somebody owes your money and they're like, oh, do you have this app? No, I don't. I personally have Venmo because of the number of people that I know that are like, oh, do you have Venmo? Can I pay you with Venmo? Fine, I'll have Venmo.
Sure.
But I've never done anything. I just, you know what I did? I let my Venmo account build up, and then when I was, Lizzie and I were going to see a show, and she bought the tickets, I'm like, oh, I can Venmo you because I have this money in my Venmo account.
Just sitting there, not
Great.
doing anything.
Perfect. Works great.
Sure.
Fine. Everything's fine.
Sure.
Oh yeah, it was Ron Funches. I couldn't remember. So I'm very surprised there hadn't been another type of Patreon website available. But I mean, how many other eBays have succeeded to the level that eBay has?
Well, I think this could be a thing similar to social media networks where everyone's using it because it's the only one out there, and then all of a sudden they screw up in some major way, and suddenly people are looking for something to take its place.
And then they're asked to step down from the Senate.
Yeah, right.
Well, after this is done, this episode is recorded, maybe not today, but as soon as I have a chance, I will change our $5 level to...
I think it's $4.50 was what most people were doing, who were doing $5 levels.
So that'll still be the level at which we thank our that level subscribers for the month, including Artie White, including Michael Romanenko, including the entire Springham family, including Jose Villagomez, including, of course, Tom Nagovin of Century Guild, and my brother George.
Okay.
So
thanks, everybody.
That level will now drop to $4.50 to combat the fees if anybody...
Which, as creators, we never asked anyone to pay for us. That's just the cost of doing business.
Right. We were happy with the way it was.
Sure.
And we're happy that you find value to this or to what you do, to what we do. I hope you find value to what you do as well.
I find value of what I do.
That's good.
Not this,
That's
but
good.
other things.
From last week's episode where we were talking about ways or things to consider when opening your own comic shop, the person that we did it specifically for, who'd written the questions, was very thankful to us and had reached out to some other stores and some other people and some other institutions. And it's funny because after I realized that, I'm like, well, now I kind of want to know what everybody else said. And one of them had said, hey, that's a secret. And I said, ours isn't. Ours is public. and I just, earlier today, sent the link. I'm like, by the way, if you want to know what we said, here you go. Here's the link. I don't think we have any... the whole point of this podcast is so there are not secrets. I mean, we may not specifically say, we ordered exactly this many copies of this book and paid this much for it.
Right.
We're more apt to talk in percentages, but I think that is a better way to let people that think this has value work for them as well.
Sure.
So we're recording this, first of all, during the day, which is pretty weird.
It's strange.
Like, there's no lights in the studio right now.
Because there's daylight outside.
Right, we don't need it. I was tempted to turn the tree on anyway, just because that's what we do. But it's also early-ish December. There's still a few weeks before Christmas. And I thought this might be a good time for you and I to talk about what we think are good Christmas gifts in the comics field for this holiday season. And it doesn't necessarily have to be comics, but I think all my picks will be.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to be like, you should get the new DC Direct Wonder Woman figure.
Sure.
Something like that. They're not necessarily... I'm not going to start with they're not going to be ongoing series. They're going to be graphic novels, not single-issue comics.
Okay.
I don't think single-issue comics are the kind of gifts that people expect or that people buy for people.
Sure.
But, I mean, for stocking stuffers, we have a pretty decent selection of dollar books that are from the publishers at $1, and all of our back issues are 99 cents.
Sure.
But, I mean, the True Believers or the 100 Penny Press or whatever they call them, every publisher has a different name for their reprinted books that go for $1. And Marvel's theme for the month is Jean Grey and Phoenix, so there's more and more of those each week. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about graphic novels that I think are maybe a good bet for this holiday season.
Sure.
And I'm going to start with as old of a graphic novel as you can get, really, Watchmen.
Okay.
You think that everybody you know who reads comics has already read Watchmen, but with the popularity of Doomsday Clock right now, which, as we've talked about before, is basically Watchmen Part 2, and we still sell like 2 Watchmen a week. So there are people that are getting Watchmen for the first time.
Sure.
And I think that if you're a longtime comic fan, or a new comic fan, maybe more if you're new, Watchmen, it might not be the kind of book that you go out and buy for yourself, but everybody should read.
Sure.
And I think that as far as calling comics literary classics, Watchmen is the epitome of that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to bounce back and forth, or should I just keep going?
Sure, no. I had not thought about this question before we started recording.
Which is why I could still keep going.
No,
I did not give Dal a heads up.
The extra 5 minutes is not going to help me on this.
Okay.
Yeah, my list is going to be largely what we have on our front counter because honestly, I just revised all that within the last couple weeks with an eye towards, hey, it's going to be the Christmas shopping season, so we should have stuff on this table that people want to check out, or that maybe stuff from this year that people could maybe get as a gift. So normally I'd say stuff like Vision 1 and 2, like Tom King and Gabe Walta's Vision is an all-time great, and those 2 volumes are a perfect gift for someone who likes the Marvel movies, but also likes them in a balanced diet with a lot of good movies and TV shows. You know, someone who's a little younger, a little bit more superhero focused. Maybe Vision isn't the book for them, but Vision is the kind of book that every year there's some superhero thing that Marvel or DC fans can give to someone in their life who likes pop culture but isn't a superhero person to go, it's not, the punch 'em up stuff that you're thinking of. This is what you can do with these characters, these concepts, these worlds. Like, you can explore other ideas with them. And Tom King, currently in mainstream comics, is one of the best guys to sort of dig under the hood of a lot of these concepts to figure out what else can you do with it. Omega Men isn't just a sci-fi action adventure book. It's a book about the trials of both the occupiers and the occupied. It's about different cultures trying to coexist when there's an original sin that they can't get past. It's about how far you should go to fight for what you believe in before what you're doing is just fighting to fight. It's strong ideas. Vision is about a midlife crisis. It's about a point in your life where you've decided that how you've been living up to that point isn't what you wanted, so maybe a huge change is in order, and then how much of that is viable and how much of that is just you reacting to an absence in your life versus something you're making better or just something that you're trying to paper over. Like, all of these things are kind of explored under the hood in Vision, but both of those are done in a regular broad superhero universe. Omega Men has a Green Lantern in it. They talk about the destruction of Krypton. Vision, he's in the Avengers. All of the Avengers show up in the second half of the story. Like, all of that stuff is there. So that's the stuff we normally have on the front counter. And Omega Men we do because that's kind of the last Tom King thing that we've really recommended after Vision and Sheriff of Babylon and Batman for a long time. Besides those, the thing I want to sort of point out, because I don't feel like it necessarily was as big as we wanted it to be, Spinning by Tilly Walden.
Spinning was on my list as well.
It's a tricky one because its audience is kind of the one that we don't usually get a lot of requests for. It's definitely a great book for a young adult reader who's looking for a good teen girl coming-of-age story. That is not a request that Challengers gets a lot. We get younger kids who are looking for something like the Raina Telgemeier stuff, which is very middle school oriented. We get adults who are looking for stuff more like Monstrous or Alex and Ada. We kind of don't get that kind of middle section where it's a book for teenagers or people in their early 20s who are looking for that kind of story. But if you know someone in your life, if you've got a cousin or a niece or a sister, like, this is absolutely the book for the kids who are too old for, like, the Raina Telgemeier stuff, who still want those stories. Like, if you know anyone who is a fan of, like, John Green, Spinning.
Sure.
Just get them Spinning. That's the comic book.
And he's got a brand new book out right now.
It's not the comic book version of John Green. They're kind of doing different things, but, I mean, it's very much in that genre. Like, just get that. So Spinning, for sure.
Jumping back to the Vision for a second, I kind of wanted to jump in and say that we recently saw the movie 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Mm-hmm. And loved it.
It's great.
Like, it may be my favorite movie of the year.
Wow.
Calling it my favorite movie is weird because it's
more
not...
than Justice League?
Okay, my favorite non-superhero movie.
Got it, okay.
I think that while there's a completely different properties, I think that the sensibilities of that movie matches that of the Vision. I think that it works. Like, if you enjoyed one of them, you will enjoy the other.
Sure. I mean, Vision is incredibly well written. There's a lot of writing that goes into a superhero comic that kind of is invisible in the sense that it's directions to the artist that's helping sculpt the story, but it's not a lot of dialogue. There are some superhero writers that are really good dialogists, folks that have a good turn of phrase or write in a way where you're like, God damn, that's a funny line, or that's a clever line, or that's great. Jason Aaron's a guy at Marvel who's always doing that. There's usually a line each month in Thor where I'm like, God damn, that's a smart line. Tom King is just, I think, the best at it right now in mainstream comics. He's the guy that every issue of Batman or every chapter of Mr. Miracle has a thing where I'm like, how did you do that? How did you think of that? He's got a Sergeant Rock Hanukkah story in the most recent DC Holiday Special that is tremendous. It's another one of those things where it's like, this is probably going to get an Eisner nod for short story next year.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to have one each year that's like some 8-pager and something where it's like, God damn, yeah, that's great. It's really good.
The issue of Batman that came out this week is phenomenal.
It's so good.
Super Friends Part 1, they call it.
Yeah.
It's Clayman cover and insides.
Yeah.
And his brother inking him. Just last week, Batman Annual 2 came out and got all the acclaim.
Sure. Because it is great.
It's great.
Oof.
This is equal to that, if not better.
Yeah, and it's the structure of it is really interesting. That it's specifically about, now that Batman has gotten engaged, what does that mean for the friendship of Batman and Superman? I mean, that's, if you're friends with someone and they make a decision like that, and if they make a decision like that without you even knowing about it, that's going to throw some things in your friendship in a disarray. And this is how these two characters deal with that situation, and how the women in their lives kind of can offer a counterbalance to their tendencies.
Sure.
But there also is a crime that's being solved.
There's a superhero story.
They're both fighting villains, and it does have a link to it. Like, it's not just a talky issue about feelings. Like, it is a superhero comic, and they do the superhero thing in there. There's a fight scene. There's action adventure. Yeah, man. It's great.
And his most recent Batman collection, Rebirth Volume 4, which is the War of Jokes and Riddles, comes out this week.
Yeah.
And while... I mean, it's his best arc yet, save for this one.
Yeah,
which is, as far as collected.
Yeah.
Can people read just Volume 4?
Yeah, probably.
I kind of want to recommend Volume 4 to a lot of people because it was
Sure.
so good.
The only problem is that there's stuff that happens at the end of I Am Bane that explains the connective tissue of it, because it's...
Do you think it will be in there?
No, I think it was... Well, I don't know. Because there's a lot of War of Jokes and Riddles, so I don't know if they can afford to do all of that with the Kite Man interludes and do...
Well, I meant like the last couple pages.
And the issue before. Well, you need the whole issue, because it's... Like a lot of Tom King stuff, it's not like you can just take the last scene and go, here you go. Like, everything in the issue has been building up to that scene. So I hope they do, but I don't know if they will. They might... The page count might not support it. It might just... Especially because 25 was oversized. And it's like 25 to 31?
Yeah, something like that.
More? I can't remember.
This was 36 this week, right?
Was it? I don't remember.
5, 34, 33, so if it's 32, it would have been to 32, maybe. I guess.
Yeah, eesh. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot of comic book pages for one collection. So I don't know, we'll find out. But yeah, I think beyond that, you can definitely read it on its own.
My next recommendation is going to be no surprise to anyone who has listened to me talk about books that I currently love. And my current, 5 favorite single-issue books right now are Batman, Mr. Miracle, The Damned, Killer Be Killed, Kaiju Max. So it's The Damned trade paperback.
It's a good one.
While this is an older book that is recolored, republished, in an incredibly valued format of $9.99 for a 6-issue collection.
Color collection,
no less. This is a book that was written and drawn before the Six Gun was a thing, and now that Cullen Bunn and Brian Hurt finished the Six Gun a while ago, they went back to The Damned, and they've just finished, or I guess this week will be the last part of their first arc for the new series. But this trade that we have now is the original 6-issue miniseries, which sets the stage. It tells you who everybody is, what they're about, it builds the world, and it's a gangster comic. It's like a 1920s Prohibition-era gangsters comic, but with a really great supernatural twist, the way Six Gun was a wonderful Western comic with a supernatural twist. But I mean, also, it's a drama. It's real people with real issues in their lives. There just happen to be some supernatural elements to it.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a unique take on it, and there's some things in there that, you know, everything that's a blessing is also a curse. Everything that's a curse is also a blessing, kind of thing.
Sure.
And it's just the first volume so far. You can read it. It is done in one, although there is a sequel happening now. It's completely economical. I already said that, but man, it's so good.
My turn?
Yep.
I'm going to do two under one umbrella, just to get through them quickly. These are two volumes that just came out from Marvel recently. They're both books that when they were announced, I'm like, I don't know, like that doesn't seem like a thing that anyone needs more of. And then I always try and read first issues because you never know when you're going to be surprised. And I was surprised by both of these, by how strong they were. And their first volumes just came out recently. It's Nick Fury by James Robinson and ACO, and Black Bolt Volume 1 by Saladin Ahmed and Christian Ward. I know Fraser Irving did some of it. Did you just do the covers?
Maybe.
I think that's what I'm thinking of. Because Christian Ward did the new issue, and I'm like, is this the same guy? But it's great. Both of those are fantastic. Nick Fury is only one volume because James Robinson now works at DC, so they did 6 issues of Nick Fury, and they're out. It's a really great pop art, psychedelic spy thriller. The art and the color is the reason to buy the book. Each issue, chapter, is its own little spy mission that Nick Fury goes on. There is a subplot running through it of an opposing agent that he is trying to catch, and it resolves itself at the end of the 6th chapter. But it is just one book, and oh my god, each issue is beautiful and so brilliantly staged. The writing and the dialogue is good. It's very pulpy, so if you like kind of classic James Bond style dialogue, it's very much in that vein.
If you love Jim Steranko.
The art for Jim Steranko, for sure. I mean, it's so indebted to Steranko, but it is like a 21st century version of that. It looks great. It's a good, fun, brisk read. It's not a huge commitment, so if you get this for someone, it's not like they have to go read the next thing to figure out where it's going. It is just a one-volume thing, which I always prefer to recommend as a gift for the holidays because, again, it's not a commitment. They can just get a thing and enjoy it. Black Bolt, though, is the first of a series, although if you just read the first arc, it does resolve itself. You don't have to read Volume 2. Black Bolt's a character that I was not super excited about, and the idea of a Black Bolt solo thing seemed like a really bad idea, motivated solely by Marvel's insistence about getting the Inhumans over. But it was great. Saladin Ahmed has a really good take on how to do a Black Bolt comic. It's set in an interstellar prison where Black Bolt has to befriend a bunch of convicts to try and break out together. The cast of characters is diverse and memorable. It's the most poignant and poetic use of a character like Absorbing Man I've ever seen in a comic book. It's great. Both of those are really good volumes. Black Bolt, again, has a second volume coming out, but you don't have to worry about that if you only want to get someone something that's self-contained. They're both great. They both came out recently. If you're looking for something for someone who reads comics but maybe doesn't read everything, there's a good chance that they might not have read either one of these. They were both pretty under the radar when they were coming out in single issues.
The New York Times just had 4 different reviewers put out their list of their favorite books for the year.
Sure. And for the record, this is not favorite books of the year.
We think these are good gifts.
Yeah, so there's things we're going to overlook. Like, my favorite thing is Monsters. I don't think we need to tell you that my favorite thing of Monsters is a thing that people could buy. Unless...
That is literally what I'm building up to.
Sorry.
Because the only graphic novel on either of those lists is My Favorite Thing is Monsters.
It is, yeah. My Favorite Thing is Monsters Volume 1 came out this year, and it was... the first week, I think it was good, and people were digging it. But then NPR got a hold of it, and it was like a bomb got dropped. Like, everyone was out of stock of it immediately. It's
going to be one of our better-selling graphic novels for the year when that list
sure.
comes out in a couple weeks.
We're already getting... Since it's the shopping season, we've already been getting phone calls from people asking if we have a copy.
Right. So, I was going to say that of these 4 different lists that these reviewers had done, it's a weird list this year because there are books by John Grisham and... Lee Child, like the new Jack Reacher novel.
Oh, okay.
And the new Michael Connelly Harry Bosch novel made these lists.
Weird year for books, I guess.
Right? But out of all 4 of them, only one of these reviewers picked a graphic novel, and it was My Favorite Thing is Monsters.
Yeah. I know that Amazon, I think, had theirs, and Barnes & Noble had theirs. And the Barnes & Noble one was just a gigantic list of graphic novels. I mean, it was like 25 books, and so I couldn't tell you what was on it.
Sure.
AV Club did theirs, where basically each of their comics correspondents picked a bunch of things.
Yeah, and other people will be doing best lists of the year, but we're just trying to focus on Christmas gifts. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our entire Ex Libris Challenger section.
Sure, Kaiju Max.
Kaiju Max #1, which is one of my favorite books currently still.
It's a holiday gift for people for Christmas.
And all of these books have a signed and numbered book plate of an image that was either made for us or given to us by the creators to put into this format.
So if you want something beyond just a book that you can get off of Amazon, like these are ones you can't get on Amazon. You only get them from Challengers.
And the signed book plate is free with purchase. We don't raise the price of the book. It's just a way to say, hey, look.
Although we should start charging 2.9% of the cover price plus 35 cents for every book plate.
Well, I was just going to have a blanket 4% credit card usage fee moving forward. I've never understood how places, specifically online merchants, can do that. How there's a fee for credit cards. It's a cost of doing business.
Yep.
Our supplies and gaming distributor gets around it by calling it a
convenience fee or something?
a cash discount.
Oh, okay.
If you pay with the cash, you get a discount.
Okay.
But we don't pay with cash. We've asked them if we could pay with a check, and they're like, well, I don't like the idea of paying with a check.
Right.
But I don't like getting an extra bill every week that says how we lost, $4 to $60 in processing fees because of how much our order was.
It's one of the reasons why we're switching over how we do our Diamond payments.
Yeah, definitely.
To avoid some of those weekly fees.
If we ever get around to it. By the way, no word back from Diamond again today.
Shocker.
Tomorrow I'm just going to
drive up there.
What we're talking about is that for over 2 years now, Diamond has been talking about automatic payments because we still have to give Diamond a check every week, and it's archaic. The only people that still take checks regularly are our personal landlord, not the store. The store we pay electronically.
Yeah.
But I can't fathom the fact that we couldn't, like Diamond wouldn't let you pay with a credit card, wouldn't let you pay a file transfer electronically. They're finally coming around to that system, but they're slowly rolling it out. It's not like, okay, everybody can do it, and we're trying to get to be in the group that gets to do it. It's a conversation that Dow and I had recently where there's some retailers we know that always want special treatment. And the difference between them and I think us is that we don't want special treatment. We want the same treatment everybody gets.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's...
We want a level playing field.
Yeah. If there's benefits that somebody else gets, or if there's something that another store has offered, we want access to that as well. Not in the, hey, they have it, we have it, but in a... everyone should have it.
Right.
Like the way the industry finally changed to Tuesday delivery kind of thing. We often get to do consignment event orders saying, hey, we have this creator coming to the store.
Author signing stuff.
And we do that because we approach the publisher and say, hey, can we do this? They have to give us permission, and then we go to Image and say, or I'm sorry, we go to Diamond and say, hey, this publisher said we can do it, and it's fine. That's not a thing that they just do for us. Anybody can have that.
They have a person at Diamond whose job it is to oversee that. So when you talk to the publisher and they say yes, then you submit the order to this person at Diamond who processes it and verifies it and gets with you about return dates and the return procedures and return billing and all that sort of stuff.
There is always a line in the Marvel weekly emails when they say, our top 3,000 accounts will get this promo poster or whatever. There aren't 3,000 accounts. That's everybody. I mean, they're not singling anybody out, really.
Yeah.
But
what if there's 3001 and there's just one guy every week who's like, man, when am I going to get that poster? Maybe if you ordered more than 2 comic books a month. I don't know.
Maybe. When the invoice for next week showed a DC Direct 10th anniversary Batman figure that basically DC found a bunch of these in a warehouse and they're sending them out to stores.
Mm-hmm.
And it says select retailers. And I'm curious, what's a select retailer? Who gets it and who doesn't? We don't know how many were available. We're getting one, but in the act of fair play, I'm interested to see like who doesn't get one and why.
That's happened before, where there's been special things that have been sent out to participating select retailers, and invariably online retailers would be like, "I didn't get that. Why didn't I get it?" And again, there's no methodology given by DC as to how that was determined or who they picked.
They
or how
have
many
it.
went out. Yeah,
they don't tell us.
Well, you and I were talking about, because you have been doing all of the hoop jumping for Taylor Swift tickets. You've been shouting out Taylor Swift lyrics from your car window for the last 6 months. You got
that. I just do for fun.
You got that entire 1989 back tattoo. You sent a bunch of really unfortunate, threatening letters to Katy Perry and Kim Kardashian.
They had it coming.
But anyway, so all of this stuff
Yeah,
you've
it's
done,
all about receipts. It's all about getting receipts.
You've done all of this stuff so you could move up in the queue and get better options for purchasing Taylor Swift tickets. And so they had then let you know as a fan that based on your point totals and stuff, you'd move up the list in the availability to get tickets.
Yeah.
To which I suggested that maybe that's all bullshit and they're just doing it alphabetically or randomly, and you'll never know. Like, you'll never know unless you talk to 16 different Taylor Swift fans who will tell you their point totals to find out, wait, you were 7 minutes after me, but I was 8 minutes before you, or whatever.
We don't have point totals. We have a bar,
Snakes.
a line on a bar.
Just a whole bunch of snakes. 17 snakes. But that could just be to get you to do all these things. And then they just hit a button, and then everyone gets an email at the same time saying, oh, congratulations, platinum level participant. You can go buy your tickets now.
Well, to follow up with the story, tickets went on sale Tuesday.
Was it Wednesday? Tuesday?
Tickets went on sale Tuesday.
Okay.
In the order in which you are given a time code, and everybody was given a time code saying you will get your option, like your code to go in to buy tickets in this 1 hour block.
Okay.
Starting at whatever time on Tuesday. Now, my Taylor Swift activity bar was like 75%.
Okay.
I did a lot of stuff when they first announced it, but I didn't do a lot of stuff toward the end. And I figured I'm safely going to get a shot. All this is being done to prevent scalpers from buying blocks of tickets.
Sure. And I can appreciate that.
And
even if I joke about how smoke and mirrors it all is,
sure,
I'm glad that they're doing something to dissuade scalpers from taking tickets from fans that legitimately want to go see Taylor Swift live in concert.
And the concert day was Saturday, June 2nd at Soldier Field. Then they announced a Friday day as well. So the tickets are on sale for the Taylor Swift Army, or whatever it's called, until December 12th. Then I think it becomes for everybody else.
Okay.
Now, my time period was Wednesday afternoon between 5 and 6. And I'd chosen Saturday because Saturday is easier for me. And I think easier for the rest of the people in my group who are going to see this. And the Saturday show was 80% sold out.
Oof.
Already. I didn't bother to look at Friday because I didn't want Friday.
Right.
But I assume Saturday was the more desirable show because A, it was first announced.
Yeah.
B, it's a weekend, it's easier.
I mean, all the reasons why you wanted to go Saturday are probably all the reasons most people want to go Saturday.
Well,
I assume there's a lot of, mom and a bunch of kids are going,
right?
And that means Saturday. Like even in the summer, even June 2nd, like Saturday is just going to be easier to take the whole family out.
The difference for me is that if I went Friday, I'd have to leave work early.
Right.
For Saturday, I don't. I can close like normal and then head out that way.
Sure.
So that's why I chose Saturday. I was the one doing all of this for my group of friends so they wouldn't have to.
Very considerate.
But also because if I said to them, hey, you should join this thing as well. I get credit for them joining, so it boosts me as well.
Sure. For your illusory numbers.
The people that I was working with all
17 extra
contributed.
scales.
What? Scales?
Yeah, I mean, it adds up to a snake. So, like, but you don't get a full
you mean
snake for them
a
joining.
Snake scale. Okay.
You just get individual scales.
I thought you were making some weird McRory gave them 40 toasters for their wedding.
No, I don't know what that is.
Like, from The Flash.
Oh, no, I wasn't making
But I was looking at actual scales.
No.
So anyway, long story short, yes, I got Taylor Swift tickets for my group of people.
Congratulations.
And everybody is excited.
I imagine they would be. Taylor Swift, for those listening to the podcast for the first time, fairly popular music artist.
One of Dal's favorites, I know.
I definitely know 8 or 9 words from her songs.
See, that counts.
8 or 9.
Totally counts. So, Dal, we drifted into talking about Taylor Swift, and
as every conversation does in 2017,
especially with us,
we're only human beings.
You would acknowledge that Taylor Swift mainly has fans who are younger than we are, and in that regard, Marvel announced today
just today
a new property, if you will, that they are making for. People younger than us. Mm-hmm. Although I'm super excited for
most
it.
people.
Sure. Take it away.
Oh, is this the thing that I sent you a link about?
Yeah, I'd already posted about it on our Facebook page.
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
It's called Marvel Rising Secret Warriors, and it is launching in 2018 with 6 4-minute episodes. And this is from a BuzzFeed article, and they didn't elaborate if the entirety of the project is 6 4-minute episodes.
No, there's one full-length animated feature.
So, which will be coming out at a later date. But
yes, but
the launch is
with
these probably like 6 weekly videos, probably, or something like that. It's being one of the people overseeing it is Challenger's favorite Sana Amanat, who's done some amazing things at Marvel over the last few years as an editor, and now she's looks to be doing more stuff in the media elements, which is great because that means the things she's doing people will probably actually see, which is great. It is an animated series focusing on some of the younger and newer Marvel characters. The cast includes Kamala Khan as Marvel, Carol Danvers Captain Marvel, Squirrel Girl.
You inadvertently always step on what I'm going to talk about. My question to you is going to be, how disappointed are you that there's no Gwenpool?
I wish. Maybe she'll be in the movie. Spider-Gwen under her new codename Ghost Spider.
Which, I like that name a lot.
I think it avoids the problem of, so does she call herself Spider-Gwen or Spider-Woman? But we have a Spider-Woman, so does that... Yeah, Ghost Spider's just like... Every fan's going to call her Spider-Gwen, but in the Marvel Universe, which this is all... Since this is the Marvel Universe, it's including her with everybody else. It doesn't look like there will be multiple Earths. But maybe there will be. So anyway, Spider-Gwen / Ghost Spider, Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, Squirrel Girl... Daisy Johnson Quake, Inferno, America, Patriot. I think that's it, but there's maybe another couple characters I'm forgetting about. Lockjaw, Tippy Toe, both going to be in it?
One more Inhuman as well. I don't remember. Who's the one in Jean Grey's book? There's one called Exile.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's one that they didn't show a picture of, so I didn't know who that was. But yes, Exile. So all these younger characters, voiced by a lot of fun voice talent, both Squirrel Girl and Daisy Johnson will be voiced by their live-action talent. Most of the other characters are voiced by young actors that I'm not as familiar with, but I'm sure folks out there who watch things on channels like Freeform will be able to tell me exactly who they are.
Yeah, there was one, people get really excited that the girl who's doing, I guess, Spider-Gwen is somebody Cameron. I forgot her name.
Dove Cameron.
Dove Cameron.
Yeah. And when I saw her, I'm like, so they're going to do a live-action Spider-Gwen at some point, and they're just getting ahead of this because she looks like Spider-Gwen.
Yeah. But, online, people are very excited, and I'm like, oh, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Again, they're all very young actors, and most of them have not been in, huge motion pictures or, huge TV shows. The things they've been in, they have a very fervent fan base, but it's a fan base that I am completely oblivious to because they're on shows like Teen Wolf and shows like that, and I'm like, I couldn't tell you who's on Teen Wolf. I don't know. But yeah, that's coming out in 2018, and it looks great.
It looks great. It looks great.
There's a 2.5-minute video out promoting the project, and since it's very early in the cycle of it. Like, they didn't say when in 2018 this is coming out, so it could be kind of later in the year. There isn't really much animation. There's a few animatics to give you an idea of some of the action, but it's like rough pencils that are, you know, one panel per second. Like, it's not fluid animation that looks great.
Right.
But there's some cool character designs, and they show you a lot of the voice talent working in the booth. A few of them get a little bit to say, but most of it's just an announcement to say, yes, Ming-Na Wen is doing, or Ming-Na is doing Hala. But you don't get Ming-Na saying, let me tell you about my character. It's just like she's doing it. There's a roster of D. Bradley Bakers doing these two animal voices, and then there's overlaid with that is a shot of him doing, like, squirrel noises. That's
and
it.
his squirrel noises were great.
He's great. He's like a Frank Welker. He's an animal guy. Like, he does animal voices for most of the cartoons.
Steven Weber is Captain George Stacy.
Sure. He looks old. But yeah, it's a, from what I can tell, it seems like a good cast. Again, I don't know a lot of the kids, but I assume Marvel knows what they're doing in the casting department. I'm all about an animated feature with a lot of these characters who have not gotten a chance to be in anything before. It's fun to see America Chavez. It's fun to see Squirrel Girl. It's fun to see Spider-Gwen. And
I wonder
Ms.
how
Marvel.
this is going to be released. Like, on a platform, direct to DVD?
I think they mentioned something about, like, a multi-platform thing, which usually means, like, it'll probably be, like, the videos will be out on YouTube, but then it might be a thing that's, like, you know, on a streaming platform or behind a paywall or something that is, like, YouTube Red, but then you can buy a DVD of it in a month or something, or like it's on iTunes or part of Apple Music, or I don't know. Some of it makes me wonder, I don't know if they know who's doing this yet. This may be a thing where they're doing a project and they're talking to a bunch of different places about where to host it. Like, the new Warriors show was going to be on
ABC Family,
Freeform. But then, like, I guess they were Marvel was so excited about it, they're like, we could do more with this. And now it's going to be on something else? Actual ABC, maybe? I don't know.
Something, I thought it was something more...
Or Netflix?
Yeah, something
Hulu?
like that.
Is it on Hulu, maybe?
One of those.
But yeah, definitely got like instead of, you know, some minor thing late in the season, this is going to be a huge push for us. So yeah, I don't know 100% where it's going to be showing at, but I assume a lot of it will be on some online platform.
And that's pretty much right after their Wolverine podcast
Facebook
announcement.
is buying a lot of content. They got billions of dollars they're spending on video content, so maybe.
Well, that's foolish. The Wolverine podcast they announced, Wolverine... written by Green Arrow's Ben Percy, basically an episodic audio adventure in the form of a podcast that'll be released sometime in early to mid 2018 behind a paywall, and then
eventually for free.
Yeah.
Or ad supported, I don't know.
Well, that could be neat.
Sure.
I mean,
I'm not a podcast guy.
I'm not so much a podcast guy as recently I have been
a radio drama guy.
Reading listening to some Big Finish audio Doctor Who adventures, because they're doing more with the older Doctors, and that's fun.
And the newer Doctors.
Yes, they are.
You're getting a bunch of 10th Doctor ones,
right? But those, I don't have those yet. And while they did do a whole arc of
you bought the ones in the past, the
10th Doctor and
Dr.
Donna,
ones.
I haven't listened to those, but I've been buying the actual CDs to listen in the car, specifically when I'm picking up the comics on Tuesdays, because the distance.
It's nice to have every time
I drive it works very well with the length of the CDs.
Sure.
I do miss listening to the music, but the audio dramas, when people are talking, they're too quiet. When there's sound effects, they're too loud.
Yeah.
So it's a constant adjustment of volume. But it does paint a pretty good picture of classic Doctor Who episodes in my head as I'm driving.
Sure.
So I will most likely... Well, I do have a Captain America audiobook novelization CD in that same pile to get to.
Of what? What is it an adaptation of?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
Something like The Death of Captain America or something.
Okay.
Clearly a previous Marvel storyline that they put out, because they did a ton of those, and we tried them early
Come
on.
on, Bloodstone Hunt.
And they don't sell for us at all.
No.
But I think they're fun. And while I don't expect a lot of people who watch that new Marvel animated feature with all these cool characters will then say, hey, let's go to the comic store and get some of these properties, it's still at least interesting to see how they're getting some sort of exposure outside of comics.
So I guess that brings up a minor question that I'll have just before we wrap up the podcast for this week. So we talked about gift ideas from comic books and graphic novels, Challenger stuff. Any gift suggestions for people outside of Challengers in the comic shop? I'll throw one out there.
Okay.
MoviePass is doing gift subscriptions.
Well,
So if you know someone out there who likes movies and doesn't want to pony up the money for a MoviePass thing, you can buy them a subscription for, I think it's 3, 6, or 12 months. So
That's
depending
great.
on what you want to spend, that gives people months and months to see a whole bunch of different movies.
how many movies did you see in your first 3 months of MoviePass?
29.
29?
It's going to be tough in December and January because already it's so cold out that I'm like, I don't want to go outside.
Yeah.
And so the movies that I would see in September and October and November, it was really easy on days off to get out to the movie. So even if it was a movie I wasn't excited about, it's like, it's not, it's going to take me 30, 45 minutes to go to the theater. It's no big deal. But when it's 20 degrees out before the wind chill, it's like, unless this is a movie I'm super excited about, I don't want to go out.
How cold was it out there today?
20 degrees before the wind chill.
All right, so I'm headed downtown to see the Carole King musical tonight.
Well, wear the heavy coat.
I'm gonna. I mean, Blue Line to Clark and Lake, walk like 2 blocks.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
It's not bad.
It's cold out, and then there's no sunlight, so it's going to be even colder.
These are the 3 days that the Santa train is at the Blue Line.
Oh, neat.
So
Good
there's
luck.
a chance to see
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, former Challenger and forever friend of Challengers, Tony Valdez. I mean Santa Claus
Oops.
as Santa on the train. Probably not Santa's husband, though.
Probably. Well, I mean, it's possible. He lives in Chicago.
To answer your previous question,
Yes.
I was going to say donations to like Planned Parenthood or the Trevor Project.
Sure, those are very good ideas. Very responsible suggestions.
It's a little difficult because what you can do, like gift certificates to the Trevor Project, you can't do them in somebody's name.
No?
So you just like print out the receipt and say, "Look, I did this for you."
Yeah, here's the money I spent for you.
Yeah. That kind of a thing. So that works. I don't have any other ideas for generic gifts for people.
Okay.
I do, but I can't say specifically because,
You bought them for somebody?
yeah,
Okay.
they think work pretty well.
Sure.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Speaking of seeing, you can see comic writer M.L. Miller, that is Mark L. Miller, but not that Mark Miller, at Challengers on Wednesday, December 13th, this Wednesday, for the release day signing of his new Black Mask comic, Grave Trancers #1, and it's about a group of
Grave Trancers.
Grave Trancers, yes. People that create a new designer drug off of fresh corpses, and the fresher the corpse, the bigger the high. And then the following week, I assume, Wednesday,
We haven't heard back, but I mean,
December 20th,
that's what we're working under.
graphic novel signing for a new graphic novel called Marks, which is a real story about Henri Kampmann's grandfather during the war.
Who fought with Richard Marx?
And
I'll read it. Don't spoil it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it. And this is an original graphic novel. It's not collecting anything. It's only in this format. A couple of different artists, but it's a very personal story and one he's been waiting to tell for years. So that'll be on Wednesday the 20th. And then it'll be Christmas, and you will all have a wonderful time.
Oh, good to know.
And this podcast, Contest of Challengers, which is, of course, a comics industry business podcast on the Yak Channel Network in Chicago, is going to have a little bit more of a reach because I learned more things that Libsyn, our podcast hoster, can do. So there'll be more places that this is showing up, and especially if you follow us on any social medias, you might be a little tired of seeing how often it's getting around.
Mm-hmm.
But one of their strict rules is you can't have music you don't own the rights to on the podcast at all, even for a second.
Wow.
Now,
There's no grace period. There's no like, it was only 2
Previously-
seconds. Like,
previously we were told with the Yak Channel rules, well, normal podcast rules, you could have like 5 seconds if it's in a review format. Like if you play these 5 seconds to review it. In the past, I would do drop-ins and things, and I haven't
Sure.
done that in a long time.
no.
But I am going to put at the end of this episode a song that, oh man, I don't know if I own it or not though. Oh, one of my 2 new Christmas songs for this
Do you
year.
own the
but
lyrics?
I do on the lyrics.
I think that means that you can do it.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it in and see if we get in trouble. I was all set to be like, and we're gonna close on a song that I own the lyrics to. So maybe we won't get in trouble. Who knows? If this is the last episode of Contest of Challengers, you'll know why. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics. Christmas, it's Christmas time again. Christmas with no friends. I buy all the gifts and toys. I decorate the tree. I stand under mistletoe, but nobody stands with me. Holidays, for you know it, they're here again. Holidays, why won't they ever end? I leave out cookies and milk. I wrap presents with care. I don't write Christmas cards because I'd send them nowhere. My stocking is hung, but it's the only one by the fireplace. This song's in questionable taste. Christmas, it's Christmas time again. Christmas with no friends. I sing carols by myself, 'cause no one will sing with me. It's not over on Boxing Day. I'm alone on New Year's Eve. Christmas, New Year, Christmas, 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 New Year, Christmas, 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 New Year, Christmas, New Year, holiday.
What were your hands doing?
Trying to make noises because I was just yawning and I didn't want it to just be this gigantic gap of silence.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.